the hand that fed them. The clinking of ceramic on ceramic was the soundtrack to my morning. A simple, comforting rhythm. Coffee for Helen, exactly 2 sugars, a splash of cream. Milk for the kids, precisely half a cup. I loved these quiet moments, the hum of the refrigerator, the first rays of dawn painting stripes across the kitchen floor. It was a masterpiece of domesticity, woven with threads of my effort and my boundless affection. I was Robert, the provider, the protector, the unwavering sun in our family's orbit. And in those precious, fleeting seconds before the day truly began, I genuinely believed they loved me back. That belief, unwavering as it was, would become the very foundation of my downfall, and later, my resurgence. That particular Tuesday started like any other. I kissed Helen's forehead, a routine gesture she tolerated more than returned. "Another long day, love," I murmured, already pulling on my jacket. "Big meeting. Might be late." She gave a non-committal hum, her eyes already fixed on her phone. I ruffled Mark's hair, my strong, silent son, and bent to kiss Lily's cheek, my bright, artistic daughter. They offered faint, practiced smiles, a strange, hollow echo of genuine warmth. I was already halfway out the door when Lily called out, "Bye, Dad." The sound was sweet, innocent, yet it held a peculiar, almost imperceptible edge. It was the kind of detail you only notice in hindsight, when the tapestry of your life unravels to reveal the ugly knots beneath. What I didn't know, what I couldn't possibly fathom with my simple, loving heart, was the truth of the home I left behind. The moment my car pulled out of the driveway, the masks dropped. Helen, my beautiful, brilliant Helen, would turn to our children, a cynical sneer twisting her perfect lips. "There he goes," she'd sigh, dripping with disdain. "Your father. So predictable. So weak." For years, this had been her private theater, a venomous soliloquy delivered to an increasingly captive audience. "He thinks his money buys love," she'd scoff, gesturing vaguely at the expensive furniture, the designer clothes I bought them. "He's just a simpleton. A naive fool, easy to manipulate." She'd recount tales of my supposed blunders, exaggerating my kindness into ineptitude, my generosity into gullibility. "He's too soft for this world, children. Too soft to deserve what he has. Don't ever be like him." Mark, always looking for strength, absorbed her words like gospel. Lily, inherently empathetic, but caught in her mother's gravitational pull, slowly had her perception warped. The man who worked tirelessly, who fixed their scraped knees, who remembered their favorite ice cream flavors, was systematically stripped of his worth, reduced to a pathetic caricature. I was a wellspring of resources, nothing more. A hand to feed them, easily dismissed, easily forgotten, easily bitten. I never heard the insidious whispers, the sly jabs, the controlled laughter that followed my departure each morning. I was too busy building their lives, too busy believing in the family I thought I had. And they, in turn, were learning to despise the very hand that fed them, their hearts slowly poisoned with a hatred I couldn't comprehend. The tension in our home wasn't a sudden explosion, it was a creeping frost. Conversations grew shorter, silences longer. My jokes landed flat. My gestures of affection were met with polite distance. Helen was often busy, the children tired. I rationalized it away, attributing it to teenage angst, the pressures of her career. Perhaps I was working too much. Perhaps I needed to spend more time. The thought that their apathy was deliberate, cultivated, never crossed my mind. It was Sarah, Helen's oldest friend, who first opened my eyes. Sarah, with her quiet strength and perceptive gaze. She'd known Helen since college, had been a bridesmaid at our wedding. I'd always liked Sarah. She had a genuine warmth that Helen, for all her magnetism, sometimes lacked. We met for coffee one afternoon, ostensibly to discuss a charity event. But as I recounted a trivial frustration about Helen's increasing dismissiveness, Sarah's expression shifted. Her hand, trembling slightly, reached for mine across the table. "Robert," she began, her voice barely a whisper. There are things you don't know. The truth, when it came, was a slow-motion car crash. She spoke of Helen's resentment, born from what she perceived as my weakness and naivety. She spoke of the children's manipulated views, how Helen had systematically dismantled my image in their eyes. She even hinted at plans, vague at first, to secure their future, plans that involved me losing everything. My blood ran cold. How could I be so blind? As the days turned into weeks, Sarah meticulously, carefully, filled in the blanks. She recounted chilling details, Helen's brazen boasts about my gullibility, the contempt in her voice when she spoke of my kindness, the cold, calculating conversations about how to divest me of my assets without me ever knowing. They think you're a lamb to the slaughter, Robert, Sarah whispered, her eyes filled with a desperate plea. They're just waiting for the right moment. A terrifying knot formed in my stomach. The family I adored, the life I had built, was a meticulously crafted deception. My goodness had been mistaken for weakness, my love for stupidity. But a strange clarity began to emerge from the wreckage of my illusions. I felt a surge of something cold and sharp, not rage, but resolve. I would not be a lamb. I would be the shepherd who protected his flock, even if that flock had turned into wolves. We need a plan, I stated, my voice steady despite the tremor in my hands. Sarah nodded, her eyes surprisingly bright. I've been thinking about this for a long time. That's when she confessed. Her voice, soft and hesitant, carried a vulnerability I had never heard before. Robert, I've loved you for years. Secretly, I always knew Helen didn't deserve you, didn't see the man you truly are. Helping you, this isn't just about saving you from them. It's about everything. Her words hung in the air, a stunning revelation amidst the darkness. It was a desperate, illogical, yet strangely comforting confession. Her unrequited love, a silent force, had been her motive, her unwavering compass in a world of deceit. And in that moment, facing the wreckage of my life, her honesty was a beacon. Our preparations began in secret. We worked tirelessly, late into the nights, poring over documents, consulting with trusted, discreet professionals whom Sarah knew. She knew Helen's habits, her blind spots, her avarice. We anticipated their moves, predicted their machinations, laying traps with meticulous precision. It was a waiting game, a silent chess match where the board was my life, and the pieces were my family. We waited for their first, irreversible step. The moment came, predictably, insidiously. Helen, with the children's full cooperation, initiated the process to restructure our business accounts, citing my increasing distraction and benevolent, if naive, management style. It was a subtle, almost imperceptible shift, designed to bleed me dry slowly, making it look like my own oversight. They thought I wouldn't notice. They thought I wouldn't understand. They were so wrong. The morning after their first move, the trap snapped shut. The setting was a large, impersonal conference room, sunlight streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows, illuminating motes of dust dancing in the air. Helen sat opposite me, flanked by her sleek, expensive lawyers. Mark and Lily were there too, their faces a mixture of smug superiority and icy detachment. They watched me with a chilling lack of emotion, anticipating my utter humiliation. Sarah sat beside me, her hand resting reassuringly on my arm, her presence a quiet defiance. Helen's lead attorney, a hawk-faced woman with an air of condescending authority, began. Mr. Davies, as you know, due to recent managerial shifts, Mrs. Davies and the children have exercised their rights to restructure the family's financial holdings. This effectively leaves you. She paused, a smirk playing on her lips. With minimal assets, Mr. Davies. A modest allowance, perhaps, to ensure your basic needs are met. Helen leaned forward, her eyes gleaming with a triumphant, predatory satisfaction. It's for your own good, Robert, she purred, her voice dripping with false concern. You are simply too soft for this. We're just protecting our future. Mark and Lily exchanged a knowing glance, their expressions confirming their complicity, their complete conviction in my impending ruin. My heart tightened, not with pain, but with a cold resolve. This was it. The moment I had prepared for. I pushed a thick, leather-bound folder across the polished table. "Before we discuss any allowances," I said, my voice calm, almost unnervingly so, "perhaps you'd like to review this." Helen's attorney picked it up, her brow furrowing. "What is this?" "Evidence," I stated, the single word hanging in the air. "Weeks, months, years of it. Of what was really happening when I was too soft. The folder contained notarized affidavits from various household staff, gardeners, cleaners, former nannies, all detailing Helen's incessant disparagement of me in front of the children, recounting specific instances where she fostered their contempt. There were meticulously documented reports from child psychologists and family therapists, whom Sarah had covertly consulted, outlining the signs of parental alienation and emotional manipulation evident in Mark and Lily's behavior. There were recordings, too, pulled from hidden voice recorders that Sarah had placed, capturing Helen's casual boasts to friends about my gullibility and how easy it would be to take him for everything. The hawk-faced attorney began to flip through the pages, her composure slowly crumbling. Her eyes widened as she read excerpts, her face draining of color. This is defamation," she spluttered, but her voice lacked conviction. "No," I corrected, a ghost of a smile touching my lips. "This is truth. And this is why, under the terms of the trust one established 5 years ago, an irrevocable trust, which you, Helen, signed off on as a tax avoidance strategy, 90% of our business holdings and property ownership were quietly transferred into Mark's name, with a specific clause. Should parental alienation or willful financial manipulation by Helen be proven, Mark gains immediate, sole access, with a clear instruction to ensure my continued financial stability and total disinheritance of Helen, with Lily's share being contingent on a court-ordered reconciliation and therapy." The color drained from Helen's face. Mark stared at me, his jaw slack. Lily gasped, a raw, wounded sound. "And as for Lily," I continued, my voice softening just slightly, "I always believed in second chances. Her portion of the trust is contingent on a year of counseling with me and a genuine effort to understand the truth. If not, her inheritance, too, defaults to a charitable foundation in her name, but outside of her control." Helen erupted, a raw, primal scream. You monster! You can't do this! We'll fight you!" "You'll fight who, Helen?" I asked, my voice calm, almost weary. "The trust documents? The signed agreements? The irrefutable evidence of your calculated deceit and the psychological damage you inflicted on our children? My legal team is ready. They've been ready for months." Sarah, who had been silent until now, placed another slender folder on the table. "And this," she said, her voice clear and resonant, "is proof of your extensive gambling debts, Helen, and the substantial loans you secretly took out against some of Robert's assets, loans that are due tomorrow. To the wrong people, I might add." Helen crumpled, her defiance dissolving into a desperate, pathetic whimper. Mark looked utterly shattered, the years of his mother's poisoned words colliding with the stark reality of their consequences. Lily, tears streaming down her face, finally looked at me, a glimmer of true remorse in her eyes. How did you know all this?" Helen choked out, her voice barely audible. I looked at Sarah, a silent exchange passing between us. Then I turned back to Helen, my gaze unwavering. "Because the hand that feeds them," I said, my voice low but firm, "always knows when it's about to be bitten." The meeting ended abruptly. Helen stormed out, defeated. Mark followed, his shoulders slumped. Lily hesitated, her eyes meeting mine, a silent question in their depths. I simply nodded towards Sarah, a subtle invitation. A month later, Helen was living in a small rented apartment, struggling to find work. Her reputation, meticulously demolished, preceded her. Mark, humbled and lost, was trying to navigate a world without the financial safety net he'd always taken for granted. Lily, however, had started therapy. Slowly, painstakingly, she was beginning to see the man her father truly was, not the caricature her mother had painted. My life, rebuilt from the ashes of betrayal, was quieter, simpler. I still managed my businesses, but with a renewed sense of purpose. And Sarah? She became more than a friend. We built a new life, grounded in honesty, trust, and a quiet, profound love that had bloomed in the most unexpected of circumstances. The hand that had fed them was now held by someone who truly cherished it, proof that kindness, when combined with quiet strength, was never weakness. It was, in fact, the greatest power of all.